Okay. We're back on the air. This is Ang Maestro at iba pa with our maestro, Ado Paglinawan right over there. And ito is also known, alias, ano ba yun? Thank God it's Sunday. Thank God it's Sunday. Sandali, nakauna ba yung mic mo? Baka nag-iba itong mga switches dito. Wala akong nakikitang ilaw dyan, oh. Tama ba? Where is it? Ha?
Andyan lang yan.
Where is it?
Number 2 yata.
Well, I'm pressing number 2. I don't see it. Light
You
up.
have to put it up.
Yun. Hindi ko napansin yun. Okay, so, can you take 2, Ado, yung bati mo?
Yeah, well, nandito kami at pumabati ng isang after an absence of about 8 months because of the COVID pandemic, mga kabansa. So we're back. Mentong is moderating because it's a Sunday and it's beautiful as ever.
Yes, and it's a 2-hour show, 2-hour program, and we are going to discuss issues of the country, our own country, the Philippines, at saka ang issue ng sangkatauhan, the issues of mankind. Kasi pareho kaming mga seniors dito, hindi lang pareho, kundi yung may barkada kaming puro mga seniors, and seniors na hindi lang seniors kundi seniors na 50 taon, 60 taon na komentarista, analyst, pundits, kolumnista. So our accumulated errors and mistakes of those decades will benefit you when you come along with us for this ride every Sunday. And we have also online po every Wednesday 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. more or less sa mamaya ay flash natin yung mga instructions on how to go on our online show, which used to be Wednesday and Saturday, pero ngayon na nabuhay na naman itong ating Thank God It's Sunday, the maestros at iba pa. We are stopping the Saturday show in favor of our Sunday radio plus online. Of course, this is online too. Broadcast here on RP1, the State Radio Network, the most important network of the land, the only network that is not controlled by the oligarchs, which is an important point kasi for the past 100 years, either it's controlled by the Americans, ang media natin, or controlled by the Japanese for 4.5 years during the Second World War, or controlled by the local oligarchs in cahoots with the international finance capitalists. Yan po ang panahon ng mga ABS-CBN, and of course patuloy pa rin ang GMA7, ang TV5 and so on.
Maraming nag-a-analyze na ating kultura, and some even went to the point of saying na damaged culture daw ang Pilipino, which I refuse to accept because I don't feel it that way. But nung naging estudyante na ako ng kasaysayan at history, ay napansin ko na maraming elemento through the decades, through the centuries, ang ayaw na ang mga Pilipino ay maisaayos ang kanilang buhay. There was law, but there was no order. There was law, but there was no peace. Kaya lagi na lang peace and order, law and order, problema. At nakikita natin yan sa ating mga lansangan. Nakikita natin yan sa ating mga kabuhayan, sa pakikitungo natin sa isa't isa. At yan ang mga bagay na for which Mentong and I and some of our friends have formed an unfinished revolution. Sabi nga namin na kami mga maestro ay bago kami pumunta sa pre-departure area, ika nga, ay ma-share man lang namin sa sambayanan, lalo na sa mga millennials at mga kabataan, ang nangyayari sa atin hanggang ngayon mula nung ano ba yun? 500 years ago next year, di ba? Nung tayo ay sakupin ng mga banyaga. Yan mga kabansa ang nakaririmarim na kasaysayan ng Pilipino, and we hope by self-contradiction, by self-criticism, by activism in a democratic way, in an acceptable democratic way, ay may hayag natin kung paano tayo lalayag forward at paano natin madadala ating mga kabataan para sa isang mas masaganang kinabukasan para sa lahat.
Okay, for your information, although tawag namin sa sarili namin mga seniors, we are actually, si Kaado is 53 years old.
73.
I am 49.
73 sa December.
No, but the new 50 is 70. Di ba? The new 40 is 60.
Wow.
Kasi compared to, let's say, 30, 40 years ago, yung ating state of health para dito sa edad natin, parang state of health nung edad 40, 50, nung 2, 3 decades ago with, with our not only advance in medical science, but in natural health science.
May maganda akong balita sa iyo. Kaya kailangan nating mabuhay pa na mas matagal. Parang ang sitwasyon dito sa istasyon ay yung ating 4 to 6 baka mahirapan na doon dahil alas 6 nagbubukas na. And because of the new normal, gagawin na nila 6 o'clock. But ang sabi ni Martin Andanar ay inihahanap tayo ng slot for the Monday to Friday. So most probably, medyo maganda ng oras yan, bandang hapon siguro. So, let's hope for the best. But for the meantime, mga kabansa, subaybayan nyo kami, tuwing linggo muna.
Yes.
Tuwing linggo muna, 8 to 10 as usual. Yung daily, wait for future announcements.
Okay. Well, our enthusiasm shows, despite the reputed or purported risk of seniors moving around, we are here with you. Here in the country and all over the world, dito sa kwartong sarado, air-conditioned, but nagdala kami ng depensa. Meron kami isang air purifier we just turned on, and humidifier. Kasi yung basang hangin, I don't know how to say it in Tagalog, in Filipino, 50% less chance ang infection. Kasi yung moisture, yung mist, ay pinagdidikit-dikit ang mga particulates, and so bumabagsak at mas nalilinis po yung nahihigop na hangin. And you will notice we're wearing our face masks, which in a few minutes I will take off dahil pag nag-epekto ng air purifier at humidifier po natin. So we're employing science also here sa ating mga diskusyon. We'll try to seek truth from facts. Hindi po yung mga kuro-kuro na maririnig natin sa maraming ibang mga himpilan po na haka-haka, based on prejudices, biases. We'll always base it on facts and science. And, Kaado, bumati muna tayo kay Naily Mao. Good morning, Radio Manila. Sabi niya, si Freddy Oredina is already present at this early time. Si Antonio Miguel Carlos, good morning po, Maestro Ado and Maestro Mentong. Thank you, Tony Carlos from Lax Pinera. Good morning, Sir Mentong and Kaado. Tagal na ring di ako naka-viewing live sa inyo. Happy Sunday, mabuhay po kayo, mabuhay po tayong mga peace at law-abiding Filipino. Citizens forget mga dilawans at mga komunista, mga pasaway, lahat yan sila. From Nelson Camiling, Afable Camiling, a blessed Sunday, Kamentong and Kaado, di maestros at iba pa. From Willie Tang, good morning, andito na sila. Okay, andito na tayo. Iluki Estera, hello po, miss you from British Columbia. Miss you, hindi pala miss, kundi miss you. Chiang Bernabe, magandang umaga, maestro. And from Iluki ulit, welcome back from Chiang Bernabe. ang pagbabalik na ang maestro, ng ang maestro. Hello po, Sir Mentong, sabi ni Iluki. And Alfredo Oredina, ay salamat at tipid na sa data. That's right. Radio na. And Freddy Oredina ulit, plot to dictate worldwide drug distribution and exploiting U.S. hospital, etc. etc. Hindi ko mabasa yung iba. November 10, 2020. So, trending now. Well, Kaado, there's some major development dyan sa COVID-19
Correct.
medical information. WHO has already canceled any statement before that they have made supporting the trial use of remdesivir. Sinasabi na ng WHO ngayon, walang bisa ang remdesivir. And ilang buwan na po tayo nagbabasa niyan, nagdidebate niyan. Ako, maingat ako dyan sa mga opinion ko dyan sa medical information kasi hindi naman tayo medical experts, pero sometimes we really have to use our common sense, as our one of our colleagues here sa nakagrupo po natin dito sa ang maestro, si Ferdy Pasion, has always been saying remdesivir does not work. He is an accountant and paralegal man. He is not a medical, but his practical sense, his reading and his study showed this remdesivir is a medication for Ebola. Kung bakit ito ginamit dito sa COVID-19 and so on. So for mga 8-9 months, daang milyon na siguro nagastos dito na dolyares. Kasi $1,000 or $3,000 per shot nito, no? Basta't alam na natin yung mga Western medicine, sobrang napakamahal.
Napakalaking negosyo.
And finally, WHO has come out and says it is ineffective, it is useless for COVID-19. Kaado, what are we to learn from that? Number one, WHO's initial findings are never definite. Kasi you have hundreds of doctors from all over the world contributing to their final position on these issues. Nagpapasalamat din ako at tayo dapat sa WHO na they have finally come to a final conclusion. Kasi paulit-ulit po mga haka-haka tungkol dito sa remdesivir. Finally now they say it is not effective. Dito sa ating mga ospital, I know yung ilang mga pasyente na nakakausap ko ay doon na lalambot ang mga tuhod nila pag nakwento nila na yung kanilang mahal sa buhay na nagka-COVID-19 na pasok sa ospital, isang araw umaabot ng 200,000, 300,000 piso. And one of the causes of this is remdesivir. Severely punching holes in their pockets, and not in their lungs. But anyway, at least now that's very clear. Kaado, I also wanted to start with this news about Leonen. Sa Manila Times mainly ito kasi Manila Times ang nag-break nitong balita na si Justice Leonen had prejudged the case of Bongbong Marcos versus LeniRobredo dito sa 2016 election for the vice presidency. At ang dahilan dito ay na-break with a basis kasi may hawak-hawak si what's his full name? Si Canlas, no?
Jomar
Canlas, ng reflections, 25-page ata yun, ni Leonen on the case many months back. Many years back, 2016 pa ata.
Yeah.
And sinasabi na ni Leonen, gusto na niyang i-dismiss yung kaso. Blah, blah, blah. Ang dahilan dahil daw yung kaso, si Bongbong daw did not specify any fraud and so on. Which of course is not true because it's very clear from the files ng kaso that Bongbong made specific references to the cheating in certain areas. No? Kaada, what's your reaction?
Well, sabi nga ni Thinking Pinoy, Justice Leonen is justice denied.
Okay.
Ngayon, alam naman natin na Pati Carsoncillo nito si Justice Leonen, dilawan.
Dilaw.
Ha? At actually, yung isa dyan nawala na Nag-mainstream na dyan yung isa pang appointee ni But Leonen seems to be a struggler. Dahil meron na hong jurisprudence in fact na yung mga boto sa ARMM ay talagang pinakialaman. And in the case involving Sakurtan in his own natalo ho si Sakurtan sa kanyang pagka-governor. He was able to prove na there was really no elections that happened, or for that matter, the elections that happened were not counted and something else was reflected as the official results of the 2016 elections, which when applied to the vice presidency will make a lot of difference. Kasi ang lamang lang po ni Robredo ay 263,000 votes. At pagka na-nullify yun, lalamang na si Bongbong Marcos. No? Alam nyo naman, plurality lamang, hindi naman majority vote yan. So, yun ho ang Achilles heel ng posisyon ni LeniRobredo. At sa kabalas-malasa naman itong si Bongbong Marcos, nung i-raffle uli kung kanino mapupunta ito, dahil na kay Kagiwa dati, na isa ring noy-noy appointee, napunta naman kay Leonen, no, mga kabansa. Kaya talaga inaalat si BBM. Now, tayo naman dito ay we're not for BBM, we're not for Leni, no? But we deserve to know the truth already. Aksyonan na nila yan, wag na sila legalism dyan.
Yeah.
Let's go down to, ano ba talaga, magdesisyon na kayo one way or another.
Yeah. Number one, we are for what is the truth, di ba? So we have the facts, yung Mindanao vote, which is traditional and classical source of the cheating in all elections, in all past elections.
Yan din yung mga Hilogarsit ni
doon
GMA
din yan, So, matagal na po yan. Tradisyon na po yan na ginagamit yung mga boto diyan sa Mindanao. This is not a reflection of the Muslim culture or anything. It's just that these communities are so far from the centers of power.
In fact, it's an injustice to the Muslim community.
That's right.
Na pinakikialaman yung kanilang mga boto. My goodness.
Well, it's also a reflection ng kultura and economic structure diyan sa Muslim areas. Feudal pa ang marami diyan, hindi pa, certainly not very urbanized pa, and so on. So may control pa rin talaga yung traditional power wielders, yung mga chiefs dyan. So we have to understand that. These are facts. And so, so number two, there is a good reason why we have to fight this out. I think our succeeding issues in the next 3-4 images will explain it. Number one, there are foreign powers interested to come back and control the country. Alam naman natin sino may control for the many decades and over 100 years, through a period of real direct colonialism. Nandito sila as authorities over the Philippine society, and then neo-colonial after so-called the grant of independence through unequal treaties like Laurel Langley and so on, parity rights, yung military bases agreement, mutual defense treaty, na paglalagay po ng mga sundalo nila at mga person nilang militar dito. So that's neo-colonialism. And sa panahon ni Presidente Duterte, she has declared an independent foreign policy. And ito ay totoong soberenya. Itong issue na to ay pumapasok ulit sa politika natin dahil very obviously the Americans don't like and feel threatened by President Duterte, who is opening, like Marcos in his time, who opened up the Philippines to China and to Russia and the socialist bloc, and pinagkaisahan later on after a decade, pinabagsak, nagtulungan sila ng mga oligarchs, pinagbagsak si Marcos, I'll just go ahead, Kaado.
Bumabalik na naman sa focus itong mga Muslim votes because itong si Murad ng BARMM ay humihingi ng 3 years extension which will mean the postponement of the election as set forth in the transition.
Ay nako, mabuti na dig up mo yan. Hindi ko alam yan
Ito latest news lang to. This is about 48 hours old. At tinext ako overnight ni Abe Jarani, ang Secretary General po ng Sultanato, expressing their disappointment in this. Ang tagal-tagal na nito And as we approach 2022, delikado po ito pag hindi tumawag na eleksyon sa barn. Because sasapaw ito sa politika nasyonal. And we don't want that. And at the same time, if they don't call for an elections, that would mean that Murad will be in control of the political power and the votes sa
sa 2022.
Sa 2022, Which is anathema. Kaya nga binigyan sila ng autonomy dyan.
Well, it's important to understand also the geopolitical angle dito sa BARM and kay Murad. Remember, ang ugat po ng MILF, yung sulat ni Hashim Salamat to President Bush Jr. In year 2000 or 2001.
Si George Walker Bush.
At humihingi ng tulong si Hashim Salamat, the late Hashim Salamat, for the MILF and for their project to separate their part of Mindanao from the Republic of the Philippines. And so fast forward 20 years later, almost 20 years later, to 2020, nagkaroon ng BARM na at makikita po natin yung neo-colonial aspect dito doon sa mga proyekto po ng BARM. Tulad nung kanilang oil project, sino ang kapartner? Ang kapartner ay British. So, yan po ang
what we would like to hear is instead of this na mga legalismo na naman, at saka patronage politics na naman, because Duterte is sympathetic to them na pagbigyan na sila, gawin naman nila ang kanilang kasi hindi ho nararamdaman sa Sulu Archipelago ang BARMM.
At saka magkano ang binibigay ng gobyerno? 70 billion ba per annum?
Malaking pera ho ang ginugugol dyan. At the same time, ang gusto ng taong marinig, ang gusto ng ordinaryong Pilipinong marinig, kung ano na nangyayari sa ating claim to Sabah. Yan ang importante. Okay. So lumawig na from the case of Leonen. Lumawak na ho. Marami kasi implikasyones.
So yan, sumasanga ba?
Nagsasanga.
Nagba-branch out yung mga implikasyon. And of course, the vice presidential position is another serious branch of all these geopolitical movements or alignments that will impact seriously on the welfare of 110 million Filipinos in the coming years. Kasi malinaw naman na inaalagaan na ng kanluran yung mga pwedeng pumalit kay Presidente Duterte. And one of them, of course, who can become a president overnight.
Yes.
Kaya po maraming mga narinig tayo sa panig nila, yung mga dilawan, to be straight about it, na may sakit daw na seryoso si Presidente Duterte, bukas wala na yan. nasaan ang Pangulo,
Ayan,
parang yung laging nakahiga sa kama kahit na may krisis ang bansa. Hindi lang makita ng 3 oras nasaan ang Pangulo. Nung
kasalukuyan piniprito at binabarbecue nila ang Pangulo sa social media. Pangulo nasa himpapawid na. At nagmamanman na ng mga development sa Marikina, San Mateo, Montalban. By the way, Montalban now is known as Rodriguez. Marami hindi nakakaalam dyan. By the way, pahapyaw lang ka, Mentong, because this is an important day for me and for you. For the first time, konfirmado ko na nanonood ang aking may bahay mula sa Springfield, Virginia po sa USA, si Margot Paglinawas.
Okay,
so, yan,
good. Hello, Margot. Yeah,
hello over there.
I've not met Margot yet, but we should soon meet her. So, abot tayo doon sa issue.
Nasaan daw? Nasaan daw si Duterte?
Habang si Presidente Duterte ay isisingit pa yung ASEAN meeting sa schedule niya.
Siningit?
Singit pa siya at marami pang iba. Si Robredo naman, nagbibigay ng mga package. May mga kropek-kropek pang mga malalaking sako.
Fish crackers.
Fish crackers and so on. Nasa dyaryo ng mga iilang dyaryong mga malalaki yung mainstream media na tinatawag. So, makikita, maliliit na mga events yan, pero ang lalaki, headline,
Lumaki na lumaki.
Samantalang yung ASEAN, halimbawa, meeting ni Presidente Duterte, hindi lumalabas until some time later, yung mga ganyan.
And later, last topic natin yun, we will take up kung bakit hindi pwedeng mawala doon sa ASEAN summit na yun, ang Pangulo. Pero mamaya ho yun, as we close the
marami
program.
tayo. So let's go to Lenny. So sa akin, kaya kung ginawa ito, kita mo coordinated yung mga media elements nila, mga talking heads nila, mga dyaryo, mga social media nila, ABS-CBN, GMA7, and so on. Tulad nitong mga headlines na ito, GMA News, Robredo on Duterte's claim she's useless, weak, people know the truth. Well, I think people know the truth. That's why 91% approval rating si Presidente, talagang nagtatrabaho. At pumapapel ng so si Lenny dumaan pa siya sa remaking ng kanyang image, salamin, hairdo, mga damit and so on. Samantalang si President,
meron na rin siya ngayong scarf na katulad ni Leila de Lima. At saka yellow yung scarf niya.
Tapos yung sasabihin na sa ABS-CBN din, balat sibuyas si Presidente, sabi ni Robredo, issue ba yon? Balat sibuyas? Ayan, mga Duterte, mga Atom Araulio, yung meron silang sa social media, stand for truth. Nasaan ang Pangulo? Nasaan mga utak niyo? Ano akala niyo sa Presidente? Fashion model? Maglalakad sa rampa araw-araw para magpa-retrato at saka magpa-shoot sa camera? So halatang-halata, coordinated kami ng GMA7, ABS-CBN, nasaan ang Presidente? Black propaganda. Which,
ang estimate ko sa PR na yan, yung public relations.
But as you said, Kado, mahusay ang mga ginagawa nila. Magandang schedule, mga amplano,
malaking pero ito. Siguro ito mga 10 million a month.
Yun. Pwede, a month. Every month.
Pinagugulong nila rito para manira lamang. Ang katunayan ang ating Pangulo, as early as 2 days before, and the whole system as early as the past, the past typhoons. Kasi it was a continuing. 3 typhoon to, if you remember. Typhoon Quinta, Typhoon Rolly, at Typhoon Ulysses. At nag-ipon-ipon ng araw sa taas. Hindi kasi lakas ng undoy. Pero yung naipon na tubig ay halos naging kawangkira
may break pala tayo.
Kaya, undoy.
Nagsasenya si Joshua.
Hindi na tayo sanay.
Ganito ang senyas niya.
Hindi na tayo sanay.
Hindi na, wala na.
8:30 na po. Magpapakilala po. Mula kami.
Let's take this break. Nakaka-excite yung madiskubre ang totoo. At yung totoo, yung coordinated, nakikita natin coordinated operation to try to recapture power from the sovereign Filipinos na ginagawa po ng mga elemento ng oligarchs, mga Amerikano, and so on. And ito, strategic analysis po ito pag pinapag-aralan natin yung media strategies nung kabila, ano? Itong makikita po ninyo sa screen ngayon. Bakit si Chris Aquino pumapasok dito sa issue ng AngelLocsin, blasting the name-calling teacher? Sinong teacher yun? Bakit hindi nilalabas ang pangalan? Bakit hindi talaga makilala itong teacher? At ano itong insidenteng, I don't know if you've been following this, no? Na meron daw sa examen o leksyon ng isang teacher na inehemplo yung pagkataba ni AngelLocsin as obesity at kailangan pag-ingatan ng dieta and so on and so forth, no? Who in this world would take interest in that, ano? If not somebody who was planning a campaign, ano?
Alam mo yung yung pagka excess weight, sasabihin ko na lang. Because I don't want to use an adjective.
Is obesity a bad word? Is it a bad word?
Yan ay problema ng boyfriend ni AngelLocsin. Wala lang ibang may problema
Kaya
dyan.
nga eh.
Wala lang ibang may problema dyan, Mentong. Hindi ang problema ni Chris, hindi ang problema ni Angelica Panganiban.
Bakit nga pumasok si Chris, pumasok si Angelica Panganiban?
Kasi nga, pera-pera yan. PR yan. Pera-pera. Yan ho, mga kabasa. PR.
So anong objective nila? Ang theory ko, sa pag-aaral nito, si AngelLocsin will be prepared for the 2022 senatorial election. The way the ABS-CBN has prepared before, 20 years ago, si Vice Presidente Noli de Castro, na nagpresidente, nagpasasa sa pag-ibig fund, ng bilyon-bilyon. Yan.
Naku, malayo ako sa sound effect, Mentong. Ang sound effect niya, ganito eh.
Ano yun?
Yung inidoro, pinaplas. Dumuha na lang ako ng sarili ko. Malayo ako dyan.
So, kita natin yung build-up po, no? Of course, yung mga iba't ibang mga media, maraming mga nag-ooperate dyan, and so...
Well, it's a free country.
It's a free well, free press nga daw eh. Free press, I always say, free press, the freest press that money can buy.
Yeah.
Then si Angelica Panganiban, makikita ko sa by the way, if you look at the Google News feed, yung Google News, no? Pagbukas mo ng Google, di ba? Yun ang unang lalabas, maraming mga news. 3 or 4 items tungkol kay AngelLocsin. That does not happen if you do not have a funding behind it, ano?
Ang tawag dyan, boosting.
Okay.
Boosting.
And si Angelica Panganiban, hindi lang po itong pinapasukan, yung kanyang boyfriend. Anong pangalan nito? Sandali.
Baka tatakbong barangay chairman.
Hindi, ito. Sanjo Marudo. I don't know him from Adam, pero lumalabas sa Google feed, and so alam mo, if you analyze it, this is part of a campaign to build up, no? And,
these are people who are looking for new jobs. Nawala ang ABS-CBN.
That's right. Yeah.
Before that, nawala si Chris Aquino, and now ABS-CBN, and nawala na rin si Darna.
Yeah.
Pati yung bagong Darna, hindi pa nalolaunch. So, nawala ang probinsyano. At yung mga sinusubaybayan ho ninyo na ginugoyo-goyo ang inyong kaisipan, ay nawala na. Kaya lahat tayo ngayon nasa reality TV. Ito ngayon ang reality TV, na pati si Presidente Duterte ay isinasama nila rito sa kanilang kaguluhan. Natutuwa ko kay, by the way, no? Congratulations, Darwin Cañete, doon sa cartoon mo. Sinong gumawa ng cartoon mo na yun? Little Digong, ha? Kung gusto nyo makita yan, puntahan nyo ang aking Facebook.
Hindi, pwede natin pahanap. Little Digong, tingnan natin.
Dapat ako natawa eh.
Habang hinahanap po yung cartoon na yun, let's move on to the next. Teacher behind exam material body shaming. Body shaming ba yung sabihing obese? Talaga namang obese eh. That is not just fat. Kita nyo yung larawan dyan, di ba? Tingnan natin yung
my heart is for Angel in so far as that is concerned. Kasi parang sakit yan eh. Involuntary yan eh. Wala namang gustong lumaki
hormones yan, genes yan, genetic yan, and so on.
It's nature.
Well, actually, I don't know if I was able to include it here, no? But there is a movement all over the world now. Fat is beautiful. Nagpa-posing yung mga matataba, nagpa-fashion show sila. it's all how you define it,
Yeah.
If it's natural, what's wrong with it?
Just shape it. Sabi nga ng anak ko, ang anak ko po may si Maiya. Meron po siyang The Works sa Springfield, Virginia. Actually, Alexandria, Virginia. May studio siya. Malaki studio niya ron. And they shape this. But it's not bad. It's not ugly.
That's right.
In fact, sa Amerika hindi ako tumitingin sa mga chicks. Bakit? 80% are overweight. So, this is a standard even in the United States. Akala nyo ba naka-swimsuit ang mga tao doon? Ito na po yung cartoon.
Yung cartoon na sinasabi mo.
Little Digong. Ayun, napaka-cute.
Anong kwento diyan? Hindi ko makita
Ang kwento dyan, una, naglalaro si Little Digong. Pinakialaman ni Lugaw yung box of toys niya. At pagkatapos, ay sinunog pa yung kanyang buhok. Ayun, yung pangalawa sa kanan. At kumakain siya, nilagyan ng bulate yung kanyang plato. Eh di napikon si
Little Digong.
Yung balat sibuyas daw. Ay sabi, stop it! Stop it! Ayun, no? Eh di, na-shock ngayon si Little Lenny, no? Umiyak kayo siya. Wala naman akong ginagawa. Sinagawan ako.
Okay.
Yan ho yung cartoon. Ay, nako.
Okay, balik tayo dito kay teacher behind exam material body shaming AngelLocsin. Kita mo, hindi ini-identify ng teacher so that the teacher cannot be interviewed. So that's part of the strategy. Pasok naman si Senator Grace po, the dual citizen American Filipino. Of course, the second part is a very questionable thing, no? Sabi ni Grace po, asked the Department of Education officials regarding a certain educational material that mentioned a personality as obese. Paano nakalusot yung ganon? Sino ba ang magbabasa ng lahat ng materyales para hanapin yung obesity issue na yan? Senator Grace po. Siyempre, ipapalaki ng inquirer yung bagay na yan. So, kita mo, coordinated. I would even suspect that this was a planted story, planted material in the Department of Education, para ito ay palakihin at involve ang more and more personalities, and yung mga personalities and celebrities naman tuwa, madiadyaryo sila, mamimidya sila.
Marami kasi doon sa mga modules na ginawa ang ni Rashi. And in fairness din naman, merong mga kaguluhan doon na mga abuse din naman na lack of perception, perceptiveness and sensitivity ng mga... Pero all we have to do is correct it. Di ba? Tapos aalisin lang naman nila yun. Bakit natin pe-personalin lahat na lang ng matunghayan natin sa ating buhay ay pinipersonal natin. Sus Maria Jose, pinupolitika natin.
Pero anong motivation for a teacher to mention AngelLocsin and obesity, and then it so happens to be so publicized by the media that is anti-Duterte? Di ba? Sobrang coincidence. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Dito naman tayo sa kaliwa, sa mga komunista, terorista, yung mga kaalyado nito, yung mga patsis po. Patsis meaning yung mga na gagamit lang sa kanilang katangahan. Marami po yan. Maraming mga kabataan tulad ko, nung kabataan ko, nasa koleyo ako, nagagamit ako ng mga Jesuita, dahil sa paghahanap ko ng landas ko sa buhay, madali po magoyo at madirect sa isang direksyon na hindi naman nakakabuti sa akin o sa aking pinaniniwalaang causes o mga layunin. UP, alam na natin itong issue dito ng mga kaliwa. Nagsimula sa red tagging, nagpostura na ang mga administrasyon ng UP, humuino, si Nemenzo, yung anak ni Dodong Nemenzo, and so on. Siyempre, kailangan pakisamahan niya yung kanyang mga aktivistang kaalyado, at yung institusyon, may kultura po yan, na minana naman, galing sa Amerikano pa yan. That is there's no question about it. Ang academic culture po dyan, galing sa Amerikano, noon pa man, may kunwaring nasyonalismo, pero again, American-oriented nationalism, may politics and economics, puro American-oriented. Kung dati sa panahon ni Marcos, yung economics natin ay medyo may direksyong nationalist, industrialization and so on. Yun binabaran po ng Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation at kinonvert yung UP School of Economics into a neoliberal School of Economics na anti-Marcos, anti-industrialization and neoliberal for liberalization of the economy. So these are also centers of ideological struggle for the nation. And unfortunately, na-control ng mga kaliwa itong institusyon na to. Of course, meron ding dahilan because our society for the past 50 years has been feudal, neo-colonial, exploitative, and up to today, hindi pa naman naayos ang marami pa ng mga problema ng bayan natin, which really begins by being independent. That's why it's so important to preserve that independence and sovereignty of the country. Pero kita natin, yung mga ginagraduate ng University of the Philippines as so-called activists and mga sumasali sa NPA and so on, ay nadadala sa ideya na mali, which is to disrupt the development of the country instead of build on it, para umunlad ng umunlad. Gusto nilang, kung hindi lang antalaan, kung pwede sirain, para sila ay maka-take over through foul or fair means, which is usually foul, armed struggle, revolutionary taxes, collaboration with the Americans, as evidenced by Joma Season's protection from the NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization sa Netherlands, and so on. Kado, your reaction?
I think this issue is undergoing a bipolarity. Kasi ultimo sila mga pula, ay ayaw na rin nilang matawag na pula. At nagrereklamo, may bagong word na lumabas sa pagbabasa ko overnight. What about two-tagging? Two-tagging. Kayo, mahilig kayo mag-two-tagging. Ganyan lang naman yan eh. It's really just profiling. Profiling. Ngayon, ayaw ninyong maging ganyan, ma-profile ng ganyan, di ayusin ninyo. Ngayon, si Clarita Carlos, naglabas niyan in defense of the freedoms, the academic freedoms that UP enjoys in the past and in the present, and I think they should enjoy in the future. But, sabi ko sa kanya, so ngayon pumapayag ka na dalawang klase ang graduate ng UP. Most graduate as professionals and leaders of this country and of our society. But the others graduate as communists and further graduate into their masteral new people sa army cadre. At napapatay sila sa bundok. So, they are either communists or professionals. So what's wrong with that? Kung kayo lang ang gusto niyo maging universidad na ganyan, huwag ninyong takutin ang Pangulo dahil ang ating pong Pangulo ay matanda na. Hindi naman niya tinatanggi. Ang pasensya po niya maigsi. Sinasabi niyo balat sibuyas pa. Sinasabi niyo napipikon. Ano sabi tuloy ng Pangulo? Ayaw niyo mag-aral? Titigil ko ang suporta. Hindi defund ko yung UP. Tama ba yun? Hindi, I will not also agree with that. But, if you force the issue, you will get what you ask for.
Well, right now, it's an information and propaganda war, dito sa issue na to. Pinapalabas po ng UP administration si Chancellor Nemenzo, the young Nemenzo, What's his first name? Si Fidel, And alam nabasa ko po alam po ba ninyo na mas marami namang ginagraduate na engineers, lawyers, doctors and so on ang University of the Philippines kaysa itong mga aktivista and so on. Well, all universities graduate more of the other professionals as you're saying.
Yes.
The point is, even the activists that you are graduating are going in the wrong direction, which is to sabotage the national stability, the national economic plan, the national prosperity hopes. That is what your activists are doing. Instead of gaining the perspective na working through inside the paradigm of continuous stability ng bansa at continuous progress and continuous sovereignty. Kasi I will have to narrate the Second World War, how Lenin collaborated with the Nazis and kinanlong ng mga Nazis sa Germany itong si Lenin hanggang na-destabilize ng mga Bolsheviks ang Tsarist Russia, which is also, of course, dapat baguhin, pero
and then they repositioned themselves.
Nag-take over sila. But the right direction there was the Mensheviks, the moderates, para may continuity, stability, and may progressive direction pa rin. But yung sabuatan ng foreign power and radical elements, with the military, coup d'etat kasi ang nangyari doon sa Russia, which is again the fault of the Tsar.
Yan ang big difference, Mentong. Palagay ko, miski na sino sa mga idiotong ito, ang makidebate sa atin about komunismo, baka turuan pa natin sila kung sino yung mga Marx na yan. To a point that even Karl Marx was denying that he was Marxist. Bakit? It comes to a point kasi, mga kabansa, from Marxist to Leninist to Stalinist to Maoist and whatever it is, kay Che Guevara or whatever yan, that at the end of the day, after a few years of bathing yourself with all this, you have to make a decision.
Yes.
At realize mo na, teka muna, dalawa na pala anak ko, or magkakaapo na pala ako. Ano ba itong ginawa ko sa buhay ko? So you think now, in the very humanity of the situation, on how to improve the situation as you go forward. Kaya ngayon, mga kabansa, even the people who are involved with the new People's Army, the active cadres, are surrendering by the drones. Dati, Mentong, ang surrender sa Balikloob program, it's not actually surrendering to the armed forces. No. It is surrendering to the Balikloob program in order to take the bridge to bring them back to the road to normal lives and to reintegration with society. Ito ang isang napakagandang niche na legacy ng Duterte administration. Siya lamang ang nakagawa ng whole nation approach.
That's right, yeah.
Where people can really go back. They will not be killed. They'll not be ostracized. In fact, they will be assisted, trained, and whatever, supported, money and housing, etc. Para sila ay makabalik. And babalik mismo sila doon sa mga komunidad para hindi sila ma-consider na paraya or outsider.
That's why we congratulate the Armed Forces of the Philippines now with very enlightened leadership. Nakikita ko rin na ito ay pinaninindigan ng mga defense and security authorities natin, yung mga magagandang ginagawa dyan sa program ni General Parlade. And isang napansin ko, sumasagot ng tama ang mga military officials natin sa Senado, sa Senate hearings. Sinabi ni Esperone, sino bang, are we at a state of war with China? No, so we are not. In fact, they're very helpful. We have many projects. That's why they are not the main security concern. The main security concern is the CPPNPA and COVID-19.
May pangatlo na ngayon, which is the climate change.
Climate change, typhoons and so on. So all these are the real threats. Tapos si Esperonion, si Lorenzana also said na he supports General Parlade, but tinis, before nag-clarify siya, tinis na naman ng Inquirer at Rappler at iba pa. Well, let us go back to UP because it's now 8:52. In a few minutes, we'll take our station break. So, what is the role of the universities? To create these destabilizers or to create nation builders? Nation builders in humanities, nation builders in engineering, and so on. Well, of course, in the modern age, engineers are very vital. By the way, Kaado, I always ask this, what is the definition of freedom? Academic freedom daw. You open everything, all the minds to everything. If you open the minds to everything, nothing will be there in the end. You have to come to a definition. Ano ba talaga ang layunin ng freedom? And what is freedom? Well, I always stuck to this very very abstract, not easy to understand, but I think it is the most meaningful definition. Freedom is the recognition of necessity. Alam po ninyo, sa mundo po natin, yan ang pinakamahirap, no? Yung anong kailangan gawin ko bilang isang tao, ano? So marami kang drug addicts kasi hindi nila alam what is the purpose of my life. Maraming mga rebelding, terorista, mga suicide jihadist, bombers, and so on. Ito po ang aking layunin, mamatay para sa Diyos. And kahit na makamatay ako ng 300 inosenteng tao at sanggol, bata, sige, that's still my... What is the necessity in our lives? I think it is the promotion of life itself. So you cannot be anti-life. You cannot kill. We must promote all the conditions for a better life. Engineering is one. All our medicine.
A better life and a better way.
Yeah. So I just
meron akong diktong dyan na Latin, no? Kasi yung freedom is opinabilibus libertas. In matters of opinion, liberty, no? Pero before that, in necessaris unitas.
Talaga naman.
Ha?
Baka.
In everything that is necessary, unity. Hindi ba?
Yun.
Yun yung sinasabi mo.
That's what I'm saying.
At, pero sa huli...
Sandali lang, Jesuita ka ba? Bakit mga lingwahe mo?
Ano yan? Scholastic philosophy.
Sige.
Benedictine scholasticism.
San Beda nga. San Beda.
Gayon. Doon naman sa dulo, tatlo yan eh. In matters of necessity, unity. In matters of opinion, liberty.
Very good, yeah.
But in all things, charity. And of course, especially to the poorest of the poor.
Meron palang tinuro na mabuti ang San Beda sa iyo.
Tanong mo kay Dikong yan.
San Beda din si Dikong.
Mahilig din mag-Latin-Latin yan.
Well, anyway, I highlight this with this data about the countries with the most STEM graduates. Anong STEM? Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics.
Nako, ito gusto ko marinig kami.
Kaya nga po, China is number 1 na as a nation because they have the most number of engineers, or STEM lang, the engineers, no? And
Science,
so on. Now, sasabihin nila, nung iba, ang laki naman ng populasyon ng China, kaya malaki din ang numbers ng STEM graduates nila. Hindi po yung sa populasyon lang, sa prioridad. Dahil tingnan natin ang Japan, 1, 2, 3, number 6 or 7 siya. But ang population ng Japan is only, ilan ba ngayon? 120, 130 million?
A little over the Philippines.
A little over the Philippines lang. But they are there on the top 6, 7, Nasaan tayo dyan? Pag lawyers naman, baka number 1 tayo o number 2 to the United States. Anyway, it's now 8:56 kaado, and let me read some of the feedback from our listeners and watchers from all over the world. And from Elizalde Moica, good morning sa inyo. God bless us all. From Loren Alejandrino Pascual, beautify. That's also truth. Beauty is also part of truth. Jamin Zo Meiji, good morning mga maestro. I'm glad nakabalik na ito. And what else pa? Please answer kung ano pong friendly and effective way to deal with China kung makabalita tayo ng na Chinese Navy, Coast Guard pinapaalis ang mga eroplano o mga bangka ng Pilipinas when patrolling the Philippine EEZ. Well, nabasa ko yung posts ni Rafi Alunan, at kinastigo ko na naman sila. Unang-una, yan ay trabaho ng mga Coast Guard and so on, or air controllers, magpaalala na we have a claim to this territory, this is our territory. That is what we should be doing, our authorities too. Our borders, our authorities, which is Coast Guard, Air Force, and so on. And that is only gagawin din ng Vietnamese yan, gagawin din ng Malaysian yan, and so on. So bakit nila pinapalaki? Samantalang magkakaroon na ng Code of Conduct, kaya nag-uusap ang ASEAN with China, and so on.
Ang Malaysia kasi na itinanim dyan ng mga Amboys, lalo na si Amboy del Rosario.
At saka si Alunan,
si Alunan, ay sa atin yan. Yung parang property ba? Ang problema ho dito, we are talking about an area where there are about 5 to 6 conflicting claims, no? And the United Nations itself, ang ginagamit ninyong treaty, yung UNCLOS, is not competent to handle that issue because UNCLOS does not deal with sovereignty. Ang dealing lang po niya is for economic rights, which can be shared as in the case of conflicting claims or exclusive as in the case of Benham Rice, to which was awarded to us. Now, tayong unang pumunta dyan sa South China Sea at naglagay ng mga islands natin dyan. No? But, can we really control the other nations? Wala po. Kaya po, ang pinakamaganda is a kind of peace and sharing of a common conduct para ang magkaroon ng kooperasyon on how to have a peaceful exploitation of the natural resources there, and yung mga freedom ng mga namamasyal dyan ng mga banyagang hegemons na wala namang pakialam dito sa ating region, ay masyawatan na.
28 seconds to the break. Nag-senyas na naman po ganyan. Di ba, sayaw nung itik ba yun? Ano ba? Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, let's take this break. It's now exactly in 15 seconds, 9 o'clock. But we can start the break already. From Giancarlo EY, what can you say about this? Ito po yung balita about QC judge ordering the arrest of sino ba to? Si dating Health Secretary Garin, okay. Well,
ano na naman, legalistic na naman. And, hindi naman daw siya, wala naman daw warrant of arrest. Ang sinasabi ng korte is nakapaglagay na ba kayo ng bail bond para wag na kayong issuehan ng warrant of arrest. Yeah. This is a play of words. Congressman Garin, you are being accused and this is a legal process. So whether there is an actual warrant of arrest and you are already in the jurisdiction of the court, wag na tayong magpa-ikot-ikot pa.
Okay, and then si Henry Guelmi, Kaado and Mentong, welcome back. Dimari Chalar, mabuhay ang mga maestro. Kaado and Mentong, very happy to see you back live in your program. Watching from, naputol siguro, no? From Arlene Apurado, I doubted at first, but after my first payouts, I realized that it's about being trading, but about being positive and having a positive mindset as well. Thank you, Mrs. Maria Isabella, for making me recover my lost funds. Okay, I don't know what that was. From Magracia, Flores Queenie, Mrs. Catherine Deborah, for all you do, for who you are, I will be forever grateful to you for the rest of my life. Just saying thank you will never repay. Okay, that is our service to you, conveying your message. Paul Jan Salapare Yalong. Tess, I don't know what, siguro bat. Yes daw. From Sir Maestro. Yes, Sir Maestro.
Taga ano yan? Taga East California yan.
Okay. From Paul John Salapare Yalong, finally watching from San Francisco, California, East Bay. Okay, kilala mo personally?
Hindi, dito lang.
Okay, from Jess M. Rafales, maligayang pagbabalik muli ng masaganang pagbabalita, mga maestro, Kaado, Paglinawan, Mentong, Laurel, ang maestro at iba pa sa Unfinished Revolution. Nabuhay po yan. Payo. And Arthur Canonizado, Mentong, Kaado, our great maestro. Welcome back. I am so glad to hear you on the air again. Mabuhay kayo, mabuhay tayong lahat. From Rose Shell, Len, Angelique, Mrs. Catherine Deborah, I would like to show my consign. Catherine Deborah, will research kung sino siya, no? Okay, from Lucy Rafanan, Rabara, good morning, Pilipinas, RP1, God bless. Alfredo Mediavillo, Tonga o Tonga? Tonga siguro, no? Mga image, mga icons po, no? Smiling and thumbs up.
Uy, alam mo ba Mentong, yung nagpadala sa akin, nag-release kasi ako a week ago na babalik tayo on the air on this day, no? 25,037.
Wow, okay.
Nag-greet.
Yan, okay.
Ninervyos ako. Wala akong boosting yun.
From Milo or Melo, Milu, Gianni, investments are good but only when you get to meet the true, ibang mga messages nito. From Larry Aranz, good morning. Replying to Freddy, choices made plays a better role in giving life meaningful outcome. Ibang diskusyon po siguro yan, no? Okay, let me move on. Mahabang diskusyon nila ni Freddy, yung dalawang
maestro na rin yung mga yun.
Loren Pascual. Ano ba itong iba? Okay, let me just mahabang diskusyon na yung iba, yo. Napakarami. Sandali. From Magraciano A. Coronel, good AM, mga maestro, welcome back. From Mirna Pineda, good morning, maestro and Sir Mentong Laurel, an avid listener for truth. God bless you. Okay, and on the other side, si Lai Ramos de Luna, after so long, ngayon lang ako uli. Naka-tune in sa radio program nyo, RP 738 AM radio. Welcome back. From Dang Reyes, ayan ang connect ni Angel, ang CPPNPA issue dahil yung kapatid nga si Ella ay talagang NPA. Reden Cabello, hi sirs, and Brian Jerome Pineda, good morning and welcome back po on the air sa inyong dalawa. James Moreno, good morning mga maestro. Alexander Versosa, I'm thankful that you guys are back. Mabuhay kayo, mabuhay tayong lahat. From Gary de la Paz, good morning mga maestro. Dapat po hindi nasaan ang Pangulo kundi nasaan mga puno, yung mga environment, no? Welcome back, sabi ni Loren Pascual, Alejandrito Pascual. So very glad here from Tokyo, watching you live, mga favorite maestros, Mentong and Kaado. Present po mga sirs. Trump struck the big pharma prices of medicines. Ray Pastrana, welcome back Kaado. Good AM. From Ronnie Bautista, good morning to both of you and all the staff. From Willie Tang, nabasa na natin yan. And I'll go further down. Ador Sarmiento, kasama natin sa PRPC. Good morning, Kamentong. Mabuhay, more power. Roy Bandiola, scam yung binabasa mo, Kamentong. Which one? Which one? Anyway, if you can identify it so I can take a look. From Lai Ramos de Luna, after so long, nabasa na natin. Okay, so what is our next item? Now we're moving on to the COVID-19 issue. It's good news that Duterte has approved has verbally approved, kasi yung huling balita hindi pa pirmado, no? Advance payments to potential vaccine suppliers. But the question now is, anong vaccine ang talagang pinakabagay para sa atin, pinaka-practical? Marami itong nakaraang linggo na balita about the American vaccines, no? Pfizer and Moderna, dalawa. Pero it's important to point out that kahit na yan, malakas ang propaganda na 95% effective, 92% effective daw itong dalawa, yung kanilang temperature storage requirement ay napaka-impractical para sa atin.
Napakababa.
Even in the US, nagkakandara pa sila bumili sa China ng special cold storage facilities, cold storage transport facilities. Kasi yung Pfizer vaccine na based on a new technological platform, yung mRNA at saka yung DNA, na kanilang kinukuha ang mga pira-piraso ng virus, no? At yun ang ginagamit nila. So this is a new technology. Ang kailangan palang storage po nitong sa Pfizer is 70 degrees negative or minus 70 degrees
What?
Temperature. Lowered nga ng Antartica, sabi dito sa headlines galing sa National Public Radio.
South Pole.
Why does Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine need to be kept colder than Antarctica? Okay, yung Moderna naman minus 20 degrees centigrade.
Medyo livable pa yun.
Pero mahirap pa rin.
Sa
mahirap.
Chicago, nagma-minus 20 dyan with the
yun sa inyo.
with the wind chill.
Doon sa Estados
Pero
Unidos.
yung 78.
Yun talaga.
That's subhuman condition na
So, ang Amerika ngayon, itong Pfizer and other companies siguro are also producing this. Nagkakandara pa sila sa cold storage facilities at facilities to produce dry ice. Kasi kailangan ipack yan sa dry ice para sa transportation. So, hindi ganyan ka-practical para sa Pilipinas, liban sa expectedly magiging mas mahal po ito. Although all the vaccines are now we're getting information about from the international media is more or less priced at around $30 per dose of 2 dose. So, mga $60 or mga 3,000 piso. Even China. But China has announced that it will be for developing countries, global public good. No? So I expect that to be lower. Pero hindi pa nila...
Ano ang storage temperature
yung
ng
sa China, because they're using the traditional or classical method of producing vaccine, yung inactivated virus or attenuated virus, ang kanilang storage requirement is only 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. Hindi pa zero, hindi zero freezing point, no? Kundi above freezing point pa. So it's very practical, And besides, ang Sinopharm, yung nakapasok na po sa Pilipinas for the third phase trials approved by our FDA and DOST vaccine panel, at sinisimulan ng testing dito for phase 3. 1 million na pala ang nakapaggamit po nito sa China for emergency use, as well as Brazil, Middle East, and so on. More than 1 million na actually. Kaya matibay na po ang basis for having confidence in this, no? And yung third item ko nga dito, China steps up readiness to handle logistical complexities of global COVID-19 vaccine distribution. At dito ko nakuha nga yung, while some other types such as inactivated vaccines need temperatures at conventional range of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, no? So yun yung method na ginagamit ng China. Samantalang din dito sinasabi yung mRNA requires storage as low as minus 70 degrees Celsius or centigrade. Ayan po. And so it's just checking kung may pumasok na message sa ibang mga broadcast natin. Okay. Sige, Kaado. So that is the state of the COVID-19 vaccine
development
supply for the Philippines, no? And of course, the latest that I was not able to include here, but just this morning nabasa natin na the Chinese vaccines will be in the Philippines as early as this December. Hindi lang po yung testing phase 3 trial supply, but yung supply for we don't know how many yet, no? But it will be ready here in the Philippines by December. So that's good news. Kung pumasa na po sa Philippine DOST and the FDA vaccine panel, it can be used for mass distribution na. And of course, first of all, ang mauuna dyan ay yung mga frontliners, medical and health services, sa transport services, security services natin, so ang tanong sa akin kanina nung isang kasama natin, ako ba magpapavaccine? Of course, number one, I'll be among the lower priorities, although senior ako, dahil hindi naman ako nagpa-public transportation, hindi naman ako humaharap sa publiko na ganyang ka-regular, araw-araw, hindi naman po, my activity involves mainly my work at home, pagsusulat, paghahanda sa programa, computer work, and so on. So my level of risk is very low, and so I assume that if the population eventually reaches 60% vaccinated, very safe na din ako to go around while not vaccinated. But I will, of course, seriously consider getting the vaccination too at some point in time. I have avoided all vaccines, flu vaccine and so on, kasi natural health ang aking approach. Ikaw din, Kaado,
Yeah, I'm a practicing traditional Chinese medicine, natural, ang aking vitamin C, sodium ascorbate, at ako'y umiinom din ng spirulina.
Spirulina, okay.
At saka guyabano as additional. Ang aking pong solusyon dito ay reinforcing my immune system. At of course, every now and then, sa labat, mainit na tsaa. Hindi na po ako umiinom ngayon ng malamig na tubig, maligamgam na tubig before I sleep. Ayan. After I wake up, ayan, maligamgam na tubig ang pangtapos ko ng araw ko at pagsimula ng bagong umaga. Ayan. Yan ang aking simple regimen. At hindi rin naman po ako, dahil may isang libro pa ho ako tatapusin. At wala naman vaccine dito sa sinulat kong libro. Itong no vaccine.
Yung camera nandoon ba?
Bayan mo na. Alam na. Pumunta na lang kayo sa Facebook ko, Ado Paglinawan, at nandito po yung bago nating libro. No Vaccine for a Virus Called Racism. At ito po ay sinulat ko nung naka-enhance community quarantine tayo. Wala tayong ginagawa kundi magsulat. Nakabuho ako ng isang libro na research ko po kung saan talaga nanggaling ang COVID-19. No? And I hope that as the news proceeds, that scientific confirmation of my thesis will be made that it was not only used by the American presidential elections, lalo na si President Trump, against the Democrats, dahil ina-identify po niya si Biden with the Chinese, so tinawag niya itong COVID-19 as the Chinese virus. And from there, nagkaroon pa ng racist implications because of the Black Lives Matter. And dito po malalaman, we sort the weeds from the wheat, ika nga. At dito malalaman ninyo kung paano talaga ang dapat na maging attitude ninyo pagdating po sa sakit. Siyensya ang solusyon, hindi po politika.
Yeah.
Ayan.
Well, I don't know kung mahabol ni Josh search it yung balita from Italy that Italy has found the coronavirus as early as March or April 2019. Sa Italy, Kaya po doon sa China naman ngayon pinag-aaralan nila yung posibilidad na na-import pala nila ito through the frozen goods that they buy from all over the world, kasi natutuklas nila ngayon na marami sa mga frozen foods that ini-import ng China nagdadala ng virus ng COVID-19, So this could be the source, the original source. Of course, nobody knows. Everybody's doing a scientific study. Again, the stress is on science, kasi nga yung mga Italian scientists and medical people are honest about it. May na-discover na kami pala na mga virus as way back March or April of 2019 sa Italy.
And it's very close to my heart, Mentong, because ang na-trace ko through a survey of Western media po ay unang-una, ang pinanggalingan nito is a senior citizen community which is just 1 mile from my residence in Springfield, Virginia, where there were 3 deaths as early as June 2019. And an outbreak that was covered up. Ngayon, what you're saying is, in a European country as early as March 2019, hindi po ako magtataka mga kabansa if the later analysis of this will show that this is really going around. This is a natural phenomenon just waiting. It's an accident waiting to happen. But there were some problema. There were some countries that were nurturing it. In fact, the US po, sa 4th District, Maryland, had 5 of these viruses, 5 strains of these viruses. And immediately after the incidents in Springfield, Virginia, in a matter of days, sinarhan nila ang 4th District. That was June, July. of 2019, a good 3 months before the Wuhan virus. And then what do I find out sa Wuhan? That Wuhan was a facility that was supported by American grant money. In fact, nakatanggap na sila ng $600,000 grant, no? When from the institution of Dr. Fauci, no? May mga Amerikano po doon sa Chinese laboratory. So hindi fair na basta sabihin na that is a Chinese virus or it came from China or it erupted in Wuhan. We really have to be very scientific and systematic in tracing this. Now, what happens afterwards? Around March, nagkaroon po ng hearing sa lower house ng Congress ng United States where Congressman Ruda was grilling Director Redfield of the Center for Disease Control. And it was Dr. Redfield himself who accepted that there were many cases that have been misdiagnosed, no? That they considered as ordinary flu, deaths due to ordinary flu, that later on in autopsies and post-analysis, no? Post-mortem analysis ang tawag nila, were proven to be COVID-19.
Okay.
So this belongs to no single nationality. This is a natural phenomenon and I think it is somewhat related also to climate change, Mentong.
Yeah. Okay, nakahanap na isang report si Joshua about the coronavirus circulating in Italy as early as September. Ito naman September 2019, ano? So September 2019, this was 2 months before it was discovered in China in December of 2019. And so, ayun, there are a few points, no? Kaado, tama ka. Number one, maraming theory na ngayon na matagal na nga nandyan yung coronavirus of this variety. Tapos, naging infectious lang, ano? During the December, period sa China, ano? And so on, ano? So anyway, that's the scientific approach to studying these things at hindi po yung political approach na ginawa ni Trump. Na alam naman ni Trump, hindi lang China virus yan, kundi it's just a regular virus that should be studied scientifically, but he used it for political purposes. Of course, yung akusasyon ni Trump labang kay Biden na pro-China siya, sagot niya yon doon sa akusasyon ng Democrats kay Trump na pro-Russia siya, pro-Putin. Politika, basta't napasukan ng politika, mahirap na po yung makita.
Ano ang naging resulta? Ang naging resulta ngayon is a denial of any discipline against human behavior. Hindi nagla-lockdown karamihan sa US. And so, naging catch basin siya. And it's now the epicenter of COVID-19. And I'm very worried about this because my children are there, my grandchildren are there, my wife is there. So, huwag ho tayong masyadong, how do you call it, pedagogical dito, huwag tayong masyadong extremist dito. Pag-aralan po natin as the facts unravel.
Okay. Briefly lang, basahin ko yung ilang mga reactions at comments. Dan Malyari, good morning mga idol. Welcome back. Watching from Guam. Nabasa ko na ba yun? Nards Tulin, good morning mga sirs. Mentong and Kaado, patuloy na sumusubaybay sa inyong mga updated information of today. Thank you. God bless. From Florence Eknerol, totoo ba ito? Nice naman para may programa na aabangan sa linggo. Good morning mga sir. Happy Sunday po. Okay. And sa kabila naman, let me see. Alfredo Oredina confirmed for Detrick the U.S. biological warfare lab is where coronavirus originated, and so on. So, okay, and now let me just say, since we have been discussing the coronavirus and so on in China, let me just tell everyone what the Chinese community and of course the Chinese embassy has been doing. Why do I do this? Well, alam naman natin for many years, kalat na kalat ang mga anti-China information at propaganda, and it is time with the President's help that we restore the classical, 1,000-year-old good relations with China that the Philippines and Filipinos have been benefiting from also. The Philippines, the Sultanate was named as the cosmopolitan center of this part of the world because of trading with China and through China, and China through the Sultanate and the Kingdom of Butuan 1,000 years ago. Now, to balance off the anti-China sentiment, kailangan na ating ipakita po ang mga ginagawa ng Chinese Embassy. For example, ito pong donation announced this November 20. China will donate 22 million pesos to support the Philippines relief efforts to Typhoon Ulysses. International name ata, VAMCO,
VAMCO.
In order to express our heartfelt sympathies and so on. Kasi nakikita ko rin yung post ng mga dilaw tulad ni Mar Santiago, anti-Duterte. Ano sabi nila? Bato lang nagdo-donate sa Pilipinas dito sa mga sakuna. Pinapalabas nila yung pagka-antipatiko ni Presidente Duterte na-turn off na yung mga dating donors. Ang sagot ko sa kanya, unang-una, lahat ng mga bansa na nagdo-donate dati are also in economic crisis ngayon. European Union countries, the United States of America, mga...
Alam mo kasi si Santiago, it only goes to show his mendicant mentality na pagka may sakuna, hihingi tayo sa ibang bansa. Hello! It's year 2020, November! Masagana na po ating ekonomiya. We are a donor country, sir. Sir Mark, Colonel.
Okay. But China, of course, because it is a positive growth by the end of this year, 2022% ang projected growth. The only major economy to have growth.
Magpasalamat tayo.
Tumutulong sila.
Tumulong din ang US. Magpasalamat tayo kung sinong tumulong dyan. Pero hindi na ho tayo namamalimu sa Quiapo para lamang mapansin tayo ng mga banyaga natin na suki.
Saka hindi humihingi ang si Presidente Duterte kahit sino man kung may magandang donasyon tulad nito from the Chinese Embassy. Salamat nga. Pero ang wag nating kalimutan, yung kanluran na mga nagdo-donate, kaya napikon si Presidente Duterte dahil maraming mga kondisyones, mga angal, mga kritisismo sa human rights daw, EJK, and so on.
Ang dami pang binabat, di na lang magbigay.
Tutulong ba o hindi? Hindi. Kasi nga, maraming mga attached conditions and complaints. Now, the Chinese Embassy also celebrated Christmas, early Christmas, this November 18 with their scholars. Every year po, maraming mga scholars na Pilipino, mga estudyante.
Mamimiss ko yung party natin. Virtual party tayo ngayon.
Virtual party this year. Ang Filipino, at ito naman, the Chinese Embassy in collaboration, the Philippine Chinese Chamber of Commerce, yung mga gift packs nila doon sa Legazpi City, sa Albay, and so on. So, marami po. Tuloy-tuloy. And meron pang isang item
quietly.
200 million na ang mga donasyon ng Filipino-Chinese community. Ang halaga, 200 million pesos over the months. Okay, now, do we have a break at 9:30? Wala, no? Or station ID? May break. Okay, let's take this break. Okay, we're back and our last half hour or 25 minutes actually kasi yung huling 5 minutes news break, news update. And now let's move on to other international developments. Itong nakaraang 15 ng Nobyembre, we are of course the 22nd of November now, 1 week after the signing of the China-led Trade Pact, yung RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. At ang mga American media po ay natataranta. For example, from the New York Times, China-led Trade Pact is signed in challenge to the US. It's not a challenge to the US po. Pero pinapalabas nila parang nangahamon na naman sila. Actually, ang Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership is an initiative of ASEAN. Tayo po, kasama ang ating ASEAN partners. Yung 10 bansa, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Philippines of course, Singapore, and so on.
Ito ba yung nagsimula doon sa APT plus 3, something like that?
Well,
AP plus 3?
Meron tayong ASEAN plus 1, ASEAN with China, ASEAN plus 3 with China, South Korea, and Japan, and then ASEAN plus 2, New Zealand and Australia.
It only goes to show, Mentong, that this is really now the Asian century.
That's right.
Wala na tayong magagawa dito. This is a matter of fact. Whether they accept it or not, tumingin na lang kayo sa kalye. Tingnan nyo yung mga bus. Dati sinasabi nyo, sirain, walang gusto bumili and all that stuff. Right now, if I were make to count, at least 80% of the public buses flying around EDSA, for instance, and the provincial routes are all made in China already. Ang hindi kasi alam ng karamihan ay bago ka makapasok, foreign investor ka, bago ka makapasok sa China, kailangan, alam mo Mentong, na-realize ko, na-find out ko, recently lang, na nung palang panahon ko sa automotive industry, we were dealing with automotive technology that was 10 years behind. Kasi Japan ang ating kausap. Hindi magbibigay sa atin ng Japan ng teknolohiya which is at par. Kasi baka kopyahin natin. Now, binibigyan tayo. Kaya pala meron kami mga body shell changes, meron kami mga minor and major facelifts, mga ganon. Hinuhuli ang technology. Wala tayo sa cutting or even leading edge. Cutting edge ng technology. Pagdating sa China, gusto mong pumasok sa China, as in the case of Iveco of Italy, and all the others, ito pala standard nila. You have to bring in your latest technology. But, pagdating sa loob, pagpasok mo, papartner lang ang China ron, ikaw rin ang magpapatakbo. So, yung Iveco in China, with partnership with Nanjing Corporation, naging Naveco. So, yung Iveco galing sa Italy, yung Naveco galing sa China, pero Iveco pa rin ho ang nagpapatakbo doon. Yun ho ang strategic advantage. Kaya yung technology na nandoon, and China introduces interchangeability of engines, for instance. The 3 major engines in big trucks are Isuzu, Hino, and American brand yung isa, Cummins.
Cummins, no? Yeah.
So, they want kasi the best. They want the best technology. And as a result, walang gustong umalis doon. Bakit? Sagot ng China yung karamihan ng housing, karamihan ng health, karamihan ng kung ano pa masusunod. Because it's a socialist country. Yung sweldo ngayon, Mentong, maliit na lang ang factor, no? And it encourages people to come in. So if you have an Iveco versus a Naveco, they are almost exactly the same, except that the Naveco is cheaper than the Iveco.
Yeah.
And that gives them the strategic competitive advantage worldwide.
Yeah. Ngayon, yung technology transfer doon, pinag-usapan yan. Negotiated yan. Wala namang pinipilit. Pero yung sinasabi ni Trump na forced technology transfer or IP theft, intellectual property. There is no theft kasi usapan yan eh. Negotiated yan eh. Ano namang interest ng...
Bakit daw ninanakaw?
Ano naman ang interest ng Western companies na makipag-usap at mag-negotiate sa intellectual property and technology transfer? Yung merkado ng China. Yes. Makabenta lang sila doon eh. Bawing-bawi na.
Ito ang classic example niyan. Again, from the automotive industry where half of my expertise is, alam po ninyo, because Germany started manufacturing Volkswagen in China, they were able to regain the world leadership from Toyota. Strategic advantage. They were able to sell to Russia, to East European countries. Volkswagen, made from China, which is cheaper than those made in Germany. So, ayan ho ang competitive advantage. Yeah. Business is business. Huwag natin lagyan ng masyadong kulay at politika.
Okay. And so just to show yung reaction ng Western media at Western countries, sabi ng Reuters, US being left behind after Asia forms world's biggest trade bloc, according to the US Chamber of Commerce. So, kita natin, defensive sila, insecure sila. Asia means including us, hindi China. Ano? And from Asia Times, which is controlled by Western interests also, US sidelined as China, Korea, Japan unite in RCEP also, no? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So yung mga nababasa natin na Quad daw na Japan ay kasama ng US para labanan ng China, nagbabalanse lang ang Japan dyan. Ano? And South Korea, mas malinaw pang South Korea, hindi sila papanig sa anumang mga anti-China initiative ng Estados Unidos. Ano?
They will not make the Australian mistake of trying to isolate China together with the US and even serving as the spokesperson of the US na walang tuloy sila ng napakaraming import that they needed. No? So
hindi ko nga malaman kung bakit ginagawa yan ni...
But Australia is back in the RCEP.
Yun nga, nasa RCEP. Nagbabalanse. Pinabalanse nila and baka may blackmail against what's the name, Morrison. May you cannot say that the Americans with all their intelligence resources, no, nagkokolekta din ng pang-blackmail yan ng national leaders ng iba't ibang mga bansa. Ano? Di ba in 2014 nagreklamo na si Angela Merkel ng Germany na kanyang personal phone top ng NSA, National Security Agency ng US. Ano? So I wouldn't be surprised na ilang mga political leaders sa Australia ay under threat of blackmail by American intelligence. Ano?
But if they don't balance, then they lose. They lose.
That's right, yeah. Well, the fact that sumali ang Australia dyan sa RCEP shows the importance of the China and ASEAN market. Hindi lang naman China, but ASEAN market too, to these other economies. And so, we hope this continues dahil nga ang advocacy naman ng Asia ay kapayapaan, prosperity, economic development. At actually, tahimik lang dahil very polite ang Asian societies. Ano? Iniitsapuera nilang US talaga, slowly. Ano? Okay, let's go.
Not because of anything else, but because US is recalcitrant.
Oo nga.
Ayaw ng US.
Ayaw ng US yung tahimik.
Ayaw nila number 2.
Oo.
Paano naman? The world must go on. Ang commitment ng buong mundo, ang commitment ng China is consistent with its own recent history of freeing up to more than 800 million people from the poverty line. At ito, wala sa listahan natin, isisingit ko, as China goes into its 14th year of 5-year development programs, ang aking nabasa rito recently was how sometime in 1978 to the 1980s, ang reforma nila was focused on agriculture. And ang una pala nilang pinakawalan, no? The first thing they economically set free were the farmers, the agricultural sectors. That the agricultural sectors itself, coming out of poverty and gaining wealth that they themselves created, re-engineered themselves into enterprises. Yung tinatawag natin ng mga MSMEs na we can't seem to make it work, you know. But in China in 1978 to the 80s, they were able to do that. And because of that, it triggered another kind of a revolution that catapulted them na miskin nahuli sila sa Industrial Revolution, ay nauna pa rin sila dito sa creation of small and medium industries that eventually became the norm all over the country. In fact, nung COVID-19 ang Wuhan and ang Hubei province, ang pinakamalaking kinatatakutan ng China was tabaan yung kanilang small and medium-scale industries. Pag pumunta ho kayo sa China, may nagtanong pala sa akin sa cellphone, may dami mong alam dyan. Nagpunta ho tayo sa China. Siyempre, to see is to believe. May duda rin ako. Baka binobola rin tayo. Dun sa tracking, nagpunta kami sa Higer. Nagpunta kami sa Qinglong. Nakita namin, ako yata ang pinakamaraming tinanong na question doon. Ha? Dito sa Yuna, nakita namin yung mga configuration ng buildings. Ang first floor po ng mga buildings are mga tindahan. No? Parang kayo napunta sa Binondo. Kung ganyan ang ating kaisipan, na when we do a medium rice, yung ilalim ay mismong pagtatrabahuhan na o pagte-trainingan na ng ating mga anak para sila'y maging maliliit na komersyante. Ang livelihood nila, they themselves create in the opportunities that are around them, and they're able to maximize and not just be white-collar or blue-collar workers, di yayaman ho ang Pilipinas.
Okay. Well, we have a message from Jamin Joe Meiji. Yung tanong ko po na sinagot po ngayon ay feature nyo sa new video, please. Paki-request yung the best and friendly effective way kung paano to deal with China kapag tinataboy ng Chinese Coast Guard Navy ang mga barko o aeroplano ng nagpapatrolya ng Philippine EEZ. Thank you. Well, of course, first, I would always verify, yung report. Sometimes magre-report sila, yung pala 6 months back and so on. Kung pagtataboy ng fishermen, I don't think that's true anymore, except kung during moratorium ng fishing, which protects our fishery resources for every country.
Pag nangingitlog yung mga isda.
And so wala pong masamang attitude sa isa't isa na ang mga ASEAN members.
At saka masama record ng mga Filipino fishers dyan because nagdidinamita ho sila.
Yung tradition naman sa atin kaya nasira yung coastal fishing natin. Dahil doon sa dynamite and cyanide fishing. I have personal experiences patrolling doon sa Zambales, sa Bataan coastline yan, and so on. So, yes, we will see. I think...
Mentong, very few know na merong technical working committee ang DFA natin at MFA ng China. Nakrinig dyan. That is interdisciplinary. May military dyan, may coast guard dyan, may agriculture dyan, and fisheries. Meron ding mga people who are sa fieldworks, weather and all that stuff. Malaki na ho yan. At nagsisimula pa lang ang problema, andyan na sila. Pag dumating na sa taas, meron pa rin. May protest pa rin. Meron pa rin mekanismo on how to correct without going into hostility. So, kung ano lang ho yung mga sintomas, huwag natin palalakihin. Kasi baka unang-una, tapos na yung issue. Pangalawa, yung solusyon, nauna na.
Yeah. Okay, Kaadaw, may question from Jamin. Ano po anything unjust sa Laurel Langley Act noon? Laurel Langley is the Parity Rights Act, di ba? Parity Rights,
Yes.
Na nagbibigay ng equal rights to American companies and American entities
in the exploitation of natural resources.
In the exploitation of natural resources. Ay, ang Pilipino naman, kahit na may equal rights doon sa states, hindi naman magagawa yan. Di ba? So, yun ang isang major issue dyan. From Veron Suzuki, good morning po mga sir, stay safe, God bless. Watching from Japan, okay? And, okay, so, let's go to our last item po, And this is the United States of America, about the United States of America. Okay. Alam po ba ninyo, the past few days, may banta na magkagera sa Middle East. At dahil itong si Trump, sa kanyang huling isa't kalahating buwan na lang nalalabi, bilang presidente, naghahanap ng paraan.
Gagawa pa ng gulo.
Para gumawa ng eksena na baka sakali magkaroon siya ng puwang na makapagpahaba ng kanyang pagka-presidente. At ito po nagtatanong siya sa mga advisors niya kung pwedeng kanyang bombahin ang Iran. From The Hill, which is about the Washington media, Trump senior advisors dissuaded President from military strike on Iran. This was just November 16. November 16, mga 6 days ago. And the advisors who advised him against it are kahit na si Secretary Mike Pompeo, who is a hawk, an imperialist hawk, nag-dissuade sa kanya. Si Secretary of Defense, the acting Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller, and si General Mark Milley or Milley. Milley bang tamang pronunciation?
Milley.
The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staffs, of Staff. And,
wagging the dog na naman. Wagging the dog.
So, Kado, that's our last item for the discussion. Any word from the United States? Where do you think it's going?
Well, they're on plan B right now, and that is Biden. No, we are, of course, hoping for the best, that he doesn't turn out to be the maniacal neoliberal.
Well, yeah, Kado, I'm basically an optimist about the human race. No? I'm very anti-American because of the record the past 70 years of their domination of the world and how they mismanaged being the top dog in the world, or the policeman of the world. And that's why may maraming internal problems ang US. No? Nawala ang sense of purpose, ang moral basis, which I think I see very clearly in the Chinese leadership. No? Meron silang a moral stand on how to help humanity. And that is why the US, for example, from the 9/11 World Trade Center attack, na malinaw ito ay gawa-gawa ng mga sariling elemento sa Amerika para kumita, pagkakitaan. The physics of the World Trade Center tower collapse just shows that it cannot be just terror attack. Talagang inside job. So marami yan. Isipin mo, 200 years nang nakaraan ang, let me see, it's almost 200 years nang nakaraan ng American Republic. Hanggang ngayon may Black Lives Matter pa. Hindi pa talaga binibigyan ng equal protection ng mga blacks.
Ako, I have high hopes for Senator...
Sinong bandidong pumasok doon?
Senator, I have for Senator Biden because he's a friend of mine. Dalawang senador na naging close sa amin si McCain at sa akin si Biden, because when I was momentarily assigned nung mamatay si Claudio T. Hanke sa United Nations, I was also accredited in New York. I would go to New York on Thursday by airplane. May Pan-American pa nun and then come home to Washington DC on Monday, first Amtrak. Nakakasabay ko dyan si Biden, because Biden would take a car, park and ride sa Pennsylvania Station sa Philadelphia and take the seatmate kami for many times, and we were able to strike a good conversation. And I was just hoping that he would win. Of course, my wife voted for President Trump. I cannot vote because I am not a U.S. citizen. But now that the elections are over, let's hope for the best, because that is where humanity should be. Let us be optimistic about the future.
Yeah. Okay, yung bandidang pumasok po ay si Ginoong Paul Gutierrez ng National Press Club, kasi naka-black mask siya, black mask.
Parang ninja. Parang tayo napasok na ninja rin.
Okay, I'm hoping and I believe every culture, every civilization learns through their mistakes, and of course China went through the century of humiliation kasi hindi na natuto yung Qing dynasty during that period na the Western countries were industrializing and so on. So they learned, and they have learned so much that they have progressed so fast. I think the U.S. is learning from their past 20 years of hubris. I don't think there's a new administration coming in that cannot see the lessons of the errors of Trump.
Sabi ko nga, in Cesaris Unitas, if Trump did not succeed, it was because he was without China. If Biden goes without China, as you said in your column, Biden will also fail. Kasi major market yan.
That's right. And all these reactions from the American media to the RCEP shows that nasisindak sila kung bakit naiiwanan tayo, naiiwanan kami. Yun ang reaction nila. So
ang bisikleta,
they must learn from that.
pag hindi ka pumadyak sa bisikleta, matutumba ang bisikleta. Mentong.
So anyway, our last 3 minutes and 2 minutes and our news update will be coming in. Time for us to say at least our goodbyes for this week. Until next week, magkita ulit tayo to update our community here sa RP1 audience on what our analysis and perception of facts and truth are. No? Reminder lang, we started with the expose of the PR, propaganda and information strategy, political strategy of the Americans with their partners and the oligarchs in the Philippines, no? Yung build up nila ng mga personalities for their political plans, ano? And of course yung mga issues sa UP, yung red tagging issue and the anti communist terrorist CPPNPA campaign ng ating lipunan, no? So Kaado, 30 seconds for you to say bye-bye.
Yeah, well, napaka maraming salamat po sa inyong pagtangkilik and warm welcome that you gave us. And we will be here every Sunday, 8 to 10 in the morning to give you ang Maestro Timapa.
And also, every Wednesday, may online pa rin tayo. Tuloy pa yung Power Things po sa internet, social media. And I have my program sa One Media Network, which is broadcast several times a week. Okay, last 15 seconds. I will just introduce the next show. Si Paul Gutierrez with his National Press Club. Meet the Press ba ang tawag sa programa mo, Paul? Anyway, the news reporter will be here with us in a few seconds. Maraming salamat po. And have a good day. Have a good week ahead of you. Please discuss these issues with your friends, relatives, and communities. Mabuhay po and have a good day.